magic, talking animals, an evil queen, a heroic lion. On the surface, the Chronicles of Narnia is a fantasy epic, a battle in a land of endless wonder. But take a step back and you'll see something much deeper. Because Narnia isn't just a fairy tale. Narnia is stitched together from history, mythology, and the real-life experiences of C.S. Lewis himself. From ancient legends to World War II, from medieval England to Norse mythology, Narnia is a mashup of the real world, disguised in fairy tale form. So today, we're stepping through the wardrobe and into the real inspirations behind Narnia. Because behind every talking animal and wardrobe portal is a real-world story waiting to be told. When Lucy steps into Narnia for the first time, the first creature she meets is Mr. Tumnus, a nervous, polite faun with an umbrella and a scarf. But here's what most people miss. Tumnus wasn't just a friendly woodland creature. He was something much darker and older. The White Witch ordered all Narnians to capture any humans who entered her kingdom. And Tumnus? He was supposed to obey. He lures Lucy into his home with tea, music, and comfort, playing the part of a typical faun straight out of mythology. A creature of temptation, a trickster leading the innocent astray. In ancient myth, the faun or satyr plays hypnotic tunes to lure travelers off their path, especially those linked to Pan, the wild god of nature, who is known for mischief and temptation. And at first, that's exactly what Tumnus does. But then something shifts. Lucy's innocence shakes him. Her kindness breaks through the fear and control the witch holds over him. Instead of handing Lucy over to the witch's secret police, Tumnus confesses everything and lets her go. It's a small act of rebellion, but it sets off something far bigger. And for that betrayal, he pays the price. By the time Edmund arrives in Narnia, Tumnus is gone, his cozy home destroyed, arrested for high treason. But why did Lewis choose a faun, a Pan-like figure, for this moment? Because Tumnus represents something deeper. Fauns are symbols of untamed nature, temptation, and unpredictability, figures you can't fully trust. They're wild, free, chaotic. But Lewis flips the script. Instead of making Tumnus the trickster who deceives, Lewis turns him into the first character who chooses kindness over fear, conscience over obedience. A faun, one of the most wild, unpredictable, morally grey figures in mythology, becomes the spark of Narnia's first rebellion. It's no accident. Lewis is showing us that if even the faun, the one creature you'd expect to lure Lucy into a trap, can resist the witch's control, then Narnia itself has hope. Tumnus, the trickster, becomes the first to resist, the first to overcome fear, the first spark of Narnia's awakening. He's not just a woodland creature. Tumnus shows us that even in a frozen, controlled world, there's always room for choice and change. The White Witch, Jadis, isn't just a villain. She's a nightmare in a fur coat, part sorceress, part dictator, all-powerful tyrant. She doesn't just rule Narnia, she freezes it, turning the entire kingdom into an eternal winter where it's always cold, never Christmas, and joy itself is a punishable crime. But here's the real question. Where did she come from? Long before C.S. Lewis made her the most terrifying thing to ever wield Turkish Delight, another icy queen was already ruling in a different story, and her influence is chilling. Before Jadis, there was the Snow Queen, Hans Christian Andersen's frozen monarch of nightmares, and the parallels, almost impossible to ignore. A mysterious queen, untouchable and cold. A stolen child, lured in with promises and lies. A kingdom trapped in ice, where warmth is forbidden. Both stories share one key moment that tells you everything you need to know about these queens. Let's talk about a boy named Kai. In The Snow Queen, a boy named Kai is taken, whisked away to a frozen palace, enchanted into forgetting his home, his family, friends, and even himself. But the way it happens, it's subtle, it's psychological. Now, let's fast forward a century or so to another icy queen and another stolen child. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the White Witch does exactly the same thing to Edmund Pevensie. She finds him alone in the snow. She feeds him enchanted food, Turkish delight, sweet enough to rot his common sense. She whispers promises of power. You could be a prince, Edmund. You could rule beside me. And just like Kai before him, he believes her. This isn't just a coincidence. Both queens don't rule through brute force alone. They rule through manipulation. They take children and twist their minds until they willingly betray the ones who love them, until they forget the warmth of home, until they stop resisting and become part of the cold. Both the Snow Queen and Jadis use warmth as a tool for deception. When the Snow Queen finds Kai, she wraps him in her fur coat, just as Jadis drapes her mantle over Edmund to make him feel safe. Despite ruling frozen worlds, they create an illusion of care, only to numb their victims and lure them deeper into their control. While the Snow Queen's kiss freezes Kai's heart, Jadis enchants Edmund with Turkish delight and false promises of power. And that's what makes them terrifying. It's not the magic. It's not the crowns. It's the power of persuasion. Because a villain who forces you is scary, but a villain who gives you a choice, that's true power. There's even more to the White Witch. C.S. Lewis borrowed from myths, legends, and Andersen's Snow Queen, but he also did something else. In Narnia, the White Witch isn't just an evil queen. She's a tyrant, a false god, a ruler who bends reality to her will and demands absolute obedience. But who really is Jadis, the White Witch? In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Mr. Beaver drops a major clue. He claims she's descended from Lilith, Adam's first wife, cast out for refusing to submit. In mythology, Lilith is often portrayed as a rebellious, dangerous figure. Beautiful, seductive, but monstrous. Then, in The Magician's Nephew, we learn Jadis was once the Queen of Charn, a powerful and corrupt world she destroyed by speaking the deplorable word, wiping out all life except herself. C.S. Lewis never fully explains how Lilith's bloodline connects to Charn, leaving it open to interpretation. But symbolically, it's clear. Jadis represents an unnatural, destructive force, a mix of myth, rebellion, and ruin. Like Lilith, she refuses to follow the rightful order, choosing power and domination at all costs. She's not just an evil queen. She's the embodiment of chaos and temptation, ripped straight from ancient myth and placed at the heart of Narnia's darkest winter. It's one of the strangest moments in the book. Just when things are getting serious, Father Christmas shows up. And he's not just handing out candy canes. He's giving the Pevensies actual weapons. But Lewis wasn't just throwing in a random Christmas cameo. Father Christmas means something much bigger. For years, the White Witch's spell has trapped Narnia in eternal winter, where it's always winter, but never Christmas. Why does that matter? Because Christmas isn't just about presents and snow. It's about hope. And the second Father Christmas arrives, it means the spell is weakening and the battle for Narnia is getting closer. Father Christmas doesn't just give the Pevensies presents, he arms them for war. Peter gets a sword and shield. Susan receives a bow and magical horn. Lucy is given a healing cordial and a dagger. These aren't toys, they're tools for the battle ahead. He's a symbol of light returning to darkness. His arrival signals the beginning of the end for the witch, because if Christmas has returned, spring isn't far behind. We all remember Edmund selling out his siblings for a box of enchanted Turkish Delight. But was it really just candy? Edmund, shivering in the snow, staring up at the White Witch's sleigh. She offers him a warm drink and hands him a box of Turkish Delight. And just like that, he's hooked. In fairy tales, food is never just food. C.S. Lewis was a scholar of mythology, and in legends and folklore, eating isn't just about hunger. It's about power, control, and consequences. In Greek mythology, Persephone eats pomegranate seeds and is trapped in the underworld. In fairy tales, enchanted food often binds people to magical beings. Think of Snow White's poisoned apple. In folklore, consuming magical food can make you forget your past, become enslaved, or be unable to leave a place. Edmund's Turkish Delight is no different. It's not just a treat, it's a trap. The moment Edmund tastes it, he wants more. And the more he eats, the deeper he falls under the White Witch's spell. She tells him he can have as much as he wants if he brings his siblings to her. And without hesitation, he agrees. Turkish Delight is a symbol of temptation and how easy it is to fall into darkness. It appears fine at first. It promises happiness. It blinds you to what's really happening. But in the end, it leaves you empty, lost, and further from home than ever before. A single lamppost, a forgotten wardrobe, two ordinary objects, and somehow it feels important. The lamppost is the first thing Lucy sees when she steps into the snowy world of Narnia. It stands alone, glowing in an endless winter, like a beacon guiding travelers through the unknown. Like it's always been there, like it means something. But why? Why is there a Victorian-style street lamp glowing in the middle of an enchanted kingdom? In The Magician's Nephew, it was born from a fragment of our world, a piece of a London lamppost carried into Narnia, reinforcing the idea that it exists at the crossroads of two worlds. This means the lamppost is literally a piece of earth, transformed by Narnia's magic. It stands as a boundary marker, a reminder that Narnia is a world where the impossible becomes real, where even a broken piece of metal can take root and grow into something new. But here's the real twist. C.S. Lewis didn't just pull the lamppost from ancient myths. It came from something much weirder, his own childhood imagination. In an interview, Lewis admitted that for years, he had an image stuck in his head. A faun standing in the snow, carrying an armful of parcels under a lamppost. No context, no story, just that one haunting image. And somehow, that single strange detail became the seed that grew into the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe. Sometimes, great fantasy doesn't start with an epic battle or a prophecy. Sometimes, it starts with something simple, something small, like a lonely lamppost glowing in the dark. And the wardrobe? It's the doorway that brings her there. the passage between worlds. But neither are random. C.S. Lewis didn't just make things up, he borrowed from the past. And in both Norse and Celtic mythology, light is more than just light. It's a gateway, a signpost, a bridge between worlds. In Norse mythology, there's Bifrost, the rainbow bridge connecting Midgard, Earth, to Asgard, the realm of the gods. A passage between the known and the unknown. In Irish folklore, strange lights appear at crossroads, marking the boundary between the human world and the fairy realm. Step toward them, and you might find yourself somewhere else. Now take that idea and drop it into Narnia. At first glance, it's just a wooden wardrobe, a forgotten piece of furniture in an old house. But in reality, it was always meant to be a portal. She's stepping through a literal piece of Narnia, a part of its world, its magic, its history. Both the lamppost and the wardrobe mark the threshold between worlds. One guides travelers, standing firm in Narnia's eternal winter, a light that grew from Earth yet belongs to Narnia. The other is the doorway itself, grown from Narnia's very creation, waiting to call someone home. Neither are accidental. Both were meant to lead the right people into Narnia. Narnia isn't just a fairy tale. It's a war story. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. C.S. Lewis didn't just write about war. He lived it. He fought in World War I, saw the brutality of the trenches, and witnessed firsthand how war turns children into soldiers and men into monsters. So when he created Narnia, he wasn't just telling a story about magic. He was asking a question. What happens to people when they're thrown into war, and war becomes their reality? Narnia isn't just about good versus evil. It's about how people respond to conflict. The Pevensies, innocent children forced to grow up too soon, learning that war makes heroes out of necessity. Aslan's sacrifice, a leader who dies for his people, echoing both biblical and wartime sacrifices. The final battle, not a war for power, but a war for freedom, where the choice is fight or be ruled. This wasn't just a made-up adventure. It was Lewis processing the reality he had lived through. C.S. Lewis hated war. He saw how it destroyed lives, took innocence, and left scars that never fully healed. But through Narnia, he created a world where war had meaning, where sacrifice wasn't wasted, because sometimes, when the real world is too dark, we turn to fantasy, not just to escape, but to understand. To us, Lucy, Edmund, Susan, and Peter are heroes, but to C.S. Lewis, they were something far more personal, because the Pevensie children weren't just fantasy characters, they were war refugees. Lewis wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe during World War II, when Britain was under attack. Nazi bombers turned London into a war zone, and to keep them safe, thousands of children were evacuated to the countryside. Just like the Pevensies, real children boarded trains with small suitcases, not knowing if they'd ever see home again. They were sent away from everything they knew, parents, friends, their entire world, gone in an instant, and Lewis saw it firsthand. During the war, Lewis opened his own countryside home to child evacuees. He welcomed these frightened, displaced kids, watching their fear, their resilience, and the way they clung to stories and imagination to make sense of it all. In Surprised by Joy, Lewis later admitted that taking in refugee children gave him the first spark of inspiration for Narnia. He imagined them discovering something magical, a secret world waiting just beyond a dusty old wardrobe. Because at its heart, Narnia wasn't just an escape for the Pevensies. It was an escape for every child who had ever been torn from their home by war. The Pevensies aren't just kids who stumble into adventure. They're survivors. When they arrive in Narnia, they don't just step into a new world. They step into a world where they aren't just children being shipped off and forgotten, where they can fight back, where they can win. And for every child reading in the shadow of war, it was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's still hope waiting to be found. After years of skepticism, C.S. Lewis converted to Christianity in his 30s, influenced by his close friend J.R.R. Tolkien. Yes, that Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings. From that point on, his faith became the foundation of much of his writing. Lewis didn't write the Chronicles of Narnia as a direct allegory, but rather what he called a supposal. He once said, "Let us suppose that there were a world like Narnia, and it needed redemption, and suppose that the Son of God became a lion there. Then imagine what would happen. The result? A fantasy series filled with sacrifice, redemption, and the triumph of good over evil." But Lewis never wrote Narnia just for Christians. He believed that a good story speaks to everyone, no matter what they believe. So, while you don't need to be religious to enjoy Narnia, knowing Lewis's background adds a whole new layer to the story. Suddenly, Aslan's actions and sacrifices carry a profound symbolic weight. Aslan isn't just a lion. He's the lion, the king, the creator, the ultimate hero of Narnia. But here's the real question. Why a lion? Of all the creatures C.S. Lewis could have chosen to represent the savior of Narnia, why not a mighty eagle? A wise old stag? A towering, divine-looking human? Why this? Because Aslan is something far greater. Lions have been sacred symbols for centuries. Strength, power, divine rule, and yes, sacrifice. The Bible literally calls Jesus the Lion of Judah, a symbol of power, justice, and sacrificial kingship. The Lamb who was slain, but also the Lion who rules. In Lewis's homeland, lions weren't just animals. They were the symbol of kings, representing rulers chosen by God himself. To medieval minds, a lion wasn't just a king, it was the king. In Norse legends, powerful beasts die and are reborn, their spirits living on in new forms, just like Aslan's sacrifice and his resurrection. When Aslan is sacrificed on the stone table, it's one of the most heartbreaking moments in the series. In Christianity, Jesus' death and resurrection didn't break the law, but fulfilled it, just like Aslan's sacrifice fulfilled a deeper magic that the White Witch didn't understand. Aslan's sacrifice isn't random. The stone table represents an ancient, unyielding law, just as the Old Testament law set clear rules for justice and atonement. Now, look at what happens when Aslan returns to life. The stone table cracks in half. The witch's deep magic is shattered. This moment mirrors a key shift in the Bible. Jesus' sacrifice didn't destroy God's law. It fulfilled it, replacing rigid justice with grace and redemption. In the same way, Aslan's death doesn't erase the deep magic, but it reveals a deeper magic, one of mercy, sacrifice, and victory over death. Before Aslan dies, the White Witch believes she has won. She thinks that the law, the deep magic of Narnia, means that Aslan's death is final. But what she doesn't know is there's an even deeper magic she never understood. A power older than the stone table itself. A power beyond sacrifice, one that leads to redemption. The breaking of the stone table isn't just a dramatic moment. It's the turning point. Just as Jesus couldn't be bound by death, neither could Aslan. Aslan's sacrifice isn't just about saving Edmund. It's about transformation. A world once ruled by rigid laws and judgment is now ruled by mercy, love, and redemption. And just like that, the Pevensies and all of Narnia have hope restored. So now that you know Narnia was built from mythology, real history, and real-world war, does it change how you see it? It's not just a story about a magical kingdom. It's a reflection of our world, disguised in snow and talking animals. And that's the secret to Narnia's power. Because every time we step through the wardrobe, we're not escaping the world. We're just seeing it from a new perspective. So why do we keep coming back to it? It takes the harsh truths of war, faith, and sacrifice and hides them in a world of wonder. It lets us wrestle with fear, courage, and destiny in a place where anything is possible. It gives us hope that even in the darkest winters, spring will always return. That's why Narnia lasts. That's why we keep opening the wardrobe. Because every time we step through, we aren't running from reality. We're just seeing it in a new light. Narnia isn't just a story. It's a mirror. And what you see in it, that's up to you. Until next time, remember, adventures are only a wardrobe away. Let me know, which Narnia character do you relate to most, and why? And if you love diving into Narnia's deeper meanings, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a new adventure. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to check out my video on the dark origins behind Harry Potter. Thanks for watching.